All right, we'll get started. And that gave me a little time to put on some crackling fire ambiance, which I find very warm and joyful and laughter inducing. So that fits. This one, Aphrodite Philomeides, is an epithet I picked mostly because I hear it a lot. I use the Orphic hymns a lot in my devotions, and it's one of the first ones mentioned in the Orphic hymn to Aphrodite. And it seems sort of appropriate. We're getting into the holiday season and encouraging joy and togetherness. And what frequently happens to me when I meditate on an epithet, I start out with one idea of it, and then it expands for me a lot, which is always exciting. So I ended up finding a lot more different ways to appreciate this epithet that were inspiring to me and hopefully will be meaningful in some way to you as well, even if you get something slightly different out of it from what I did. So we'll get started here. We'll light our working candle. I have my ocean water out to make carnips. I'm gonna cleanse a bit with rosemary smoke, which is my preferred cleansing agent for ritual. And then douse in the salt water. And I sprinkle on the altar. And then, having ritually cleansed the space physically, we'll go into our mental inner cleansing, which I prefer to do using the breath, coming into a slower, more full pace in our inhales and exhales. Putting aside thoughts that aren't serving or helping us come closer to Aphrodite right now. Things that are serving as distractions. If they're important, they'll definitely come back. And as you take more expansive breaths and slow your pace at breathing, you might notice places where you're feeling a little bit uncomfortable in your body. So take a moment to shift if you need to. Allowing yourself to be present, responding to the moment that you're in. And just as we use our belly for laughter, you'll have the expression belly laugh, use the belly for breath, strengthen that capacity to really take in breath, take in joy, feel it expand. As you exhale, let everything out, squeeze the belly button in, let it be a relief to let all that excess air out after you don't need it anymore. And you might want to bring a slight constriction into the back of your throat throughout the ritual so that you can keep tracking the breath. Let it anchor you to your ritual practice and to the present moment. And it creates slight ocean noise, which is always appropriate in my moments honoring Aphrodite anyhow. And today, to invoke the goddess, I am using an Orphic hymn that I would say is partly a translation and partly an adaptation. It's from Sarah Leanne Mastros's Orphic Hymns Grimoire. And it has I don't even want to say irreverent approach, because she is reverent. She's serious about her practice, practice, but it's very personal, it's very modern, and it definitely shows that she has been approaching her relationship to her gods in a way that is personal to her and brings joy in ways that are relevant to her specific life circumstances and the relationships she has forged with them. So I enjoy seeing what she's done, even though I tend to be more traditional myself, but I really appreciate the attention to detail and the way you see her relationship play out with the goddesses in her poetry. So I'll be using that as my invocation to Aphrodite today. Aphrodite Urania, ever sought after, sea-born mother goddess, bright lover of laughter. You delight through the night in revels and raves, rousing lovers to couple like you rose from the waves. Glistening, wet wile weaver, mother of need, all that awakens begins as your seed. Genetrix of the universe, eternal all queen, you rule over all worlds, those seen and unseen. The bright shining heavens and the ever fruitful earth, and the depths of the seas, to all you give birth. You sit beside Bacchus, loud shouting god of wine. You rejoice in abundance, cheer, and good times. You yoke people together, lover to lover, bringing forth love's variety, Erote's mother. Seductress, joy-bringer, kind-hearted persuasion, you coax forth our pleasures hidden within, and lead us by hand to our lovers' beds, where you whisper sweet nothings in our anxious heads. With everyone watching or in a deep secret twist, your hair all disheveled, your lips all raw kissed. You are empress and goddess, bearing queen's rods, honored guest at weddings of all of the gods. Desirable one, she-wolf, bringing longing and airs. O life giver, love gifter, attend to our prayers. Your filters fill us with lust frenzied greed, locking lovers together in unquenchable need. Come, daughter of Cyprus, and lend us your charms, for all living creatures get lost in your arms. We behold you, great goddess, splendid of countenance. Here we go. We behold you, great goddess, splendid of countenance, whether lounging in heaven or high on Olympus, or on Syrian throne, redolent of frankincense, richly adorned or unveiled of pretense, or roaming around in your iridescent chariot, or flanked by your priests on the river of Egypt, or in your swan-driven carriage upon the wide sea, delighting sea creatures as they dance in your breeze. You bring joy to the nymphs of the earth and the forest, and those who leap lightly in sea foamy chorus. You are seated in Cyprus, O Queen most divine, where your blessings are spoken by maidens most fine. They sing for you, blessed one, and immortal Adonis, he the grain god, and you the great goddess. We summon you now with fine words and pure souls. Hear our words, drink our wine, and smoke of our bowls. And then she's got this lovely, I find humorous little footnote that says, obviously the Greek does not say smoke of our bowls. You can replace the last couplet with goddess we call, our words dripping sweet wine, and grant your supplicant's wish, let us bask in your shine if you prefer. But I appreciate, especially for this theme now, how personalized she made it to her own experience and to her own experience of worshiping Aphrodite. So I chose to keep her original words. And my offering today, I actually have a rose in there that I already put. I worked on a show recently that was a comedy, and a gift that I received from somebody else working on it was this yellow rose that felt very bright and joyful. But then it occurred to me that my offering is another gift that I received working on this comedy, which is grapefruit vodka. So that's felt very lively as well. And then of course, citrus has associations with being very uplifting and kind of spicy in that sense, although that was purely a coincidence. So that's my offering for today. And also some gardenia incense, and that has no real official significance. I just enjoy the scent. I find it very uplifting. So I'm adding that in. So in considering the title of Philomeides, I'm doing what I think a lot of people do that I really admire, which is to look at the contexts in which this epithet gets used in mythology and in poetry. And in a way that confused things a little bit more, because the honest answer of the context where she is called Philomeides, laughter loving, is almost everywhere. It gets used all over the place. It gets used in times where she's, out with her retinue and she's enjoying the flowers and running through the sunshine, and that seems very, pure, lighthearted laughter. It gets used in cases where she's mocking and kind of playing tricks on other gods by making them fall in love with mortals, which kind of shames them. So it's got a little bit of an edge, kind of a gossipy character to it there. There's even a story in which she's described as sweetly laughing as she describes being stabbed on a battlefield. So that has this sort of gallows humor, laughter as a coping mechanism feeling to it. So it really expanded my understanding of what this epithet should mean to me and what I should take away from it when I saw just how many different contexts it should get used traditionally. And it's true that in a lot of cases, these epithets were sort of a default. There wasn't just one person writing these stories down. Usually it was a collaborative effort, usually taken place orally and live. So you'd have certain epithets that had a certain number of syllables that went for each god, and you would use them more to fit the meter than necessarily trying to say something specific at that moment. But just the fact that that was a go-to for Aphrodite, that a whole storytelling culture and convention said that's going to be our go-to descriptor for Aphrodite. She's laughter loving. That says something to me in and of itself, that there's this person who, left to her own devices, is going to choose to respond to things with joy, with a sort of confidence that it takes to just express yourself fully, even if it's not pure laughter, even if it's masking something else. It's a confident reaction. It's a willingness to express yourself in a way that draws a certain amount of attention. A lot of people are afraid to laugh in movie theaters or theaters unless they see somebody else laughing louder or first. So just being willing to put yourself out there and draw attention to your own emotional reaction to something shows a certain expansive confidence that I think is really admirable. And this willingness to embrace joy in a range of circumstances, even ones that don't seem like that's the natural response. And I think that plays out in a lot of her myths, even where that's not necessarily the point of the myth itself. You do notice this trait in her. A few months ago, we were discussing the mourning of Adonis. And even though we have this yearly ritual of mourning and returning to that grief, it also never says that she never takes another lover. She clearly does. She clearly continues to find joy in her life and respond to this world in this way that is inherently seeking the pleasure that she can find in any circumstance. There's another almost comedic, I find, story where at the time when she's still married to Hephaestus, she's having an affair with Ares, and Hephaestus is angry and sets up a plot to expose them and traps them in a net while they're enthralled in each other and they're naked, and then he shows them to everyone, and it's this plot to humiliate her, but she seems remarkably unhumiliated, which is not, the text itself doesn't really call attention to this, but what's said is that she's listening to everyone who is complimenting her body or is trying to help her out, and she's keeping track and ends up having affairs with everyone who said something in some way complimentary or helpful to her. And I feel like that is nothing if not remarkably optimistic, and seeing all of the possibilities, if even in that situation you're kind of scoping out your next possibility and your next love. And it's endearing in a way. I don't know if that was the intention in the story, but there's something about it that does make me smile. So with that in mind, I found this lovely little prayer specifically to this aspect of Aphrodite. acknowledging all of these different uses of laughter and the way that it can be an expression of pure joy or a response to difficult situations, and a sort of a healing agent and a protective agent, and all of the different roles that laughter plays in our lives, and requesting it from Aphrodite as a divine gift. Laughter-loving goddess, I sing to you in these dark times so that I may know you, and that you may shine forth to me and to all who suffer. I pray for laughter. I pray that I may feel full belly laughs that shake my body and make me writhe and snort until my face is wet with tears. May the core of my being ache from laughing. May I laugh so hard that I cannot hide it. May I become so close to you that I do your work by bringing laughter to others. May I be vulnerable enough, strong enough, and safe enough to be foolish, so that I may bring forth ripples, peals, and chortles through silly speech and goofy actions. May I seek your favor by sharing a smile with a stranger. I pray that everyone may have their hearts and bodies open to rejoicing, even if only for the briefest of moments. Even in pain, there is joy. May we all seek beautiful, healing laughter and know that it is good, right, and balancing for the world and for us. May your light pour forth from my eyes once again. And take a moment, come back to your breath, that big belly breath, the breath that can support laughter when you need it to. And ruminate on what those words mean to you today, and the role that laughter has played in your life in general or recently. Have you been able to source the joy that you need? It is okay to think of laughter as a need, to think of joy as a need. As you breathe, soften your face. And see what it feels like to gently spread your mouth into a smile. And when you do that, what does it feel like it is expressing right now? Does it feel like an expression of pure joy, in which case, take thanks for that? If it feels like it's difficult to do or that it's masking pain in some way, there's also a place to acknowledge that. And to see what places can you find little bits of joy in whatever scenario you're in, even if you're finding it's harder to smile and harder to laugh. And as you expand the belly in breath, as you attempt to expand the mouth into a smile, see what other potential movements or gestures feel natural. Maybe at this point it feels good to stretch out arms or legs to take up a little more space in this world. and reflect on ways that to just be a constant pleasure seeker, as Aphrodite is proud to be, can be a joy, can be a blessing, can make it easier to move through a day productively and with grace. And just a moment or two here and there is taken to stretch the body in the way that feels good, to take a deeper breath, to take moments of joy, even if they're sandwiched in between more difficult moments. And for every example that you can think of, great or small, that some moment of joy or humor or laughter has helped you recently. See that as a divine gift directly from the goddess, and express your thanks either in words or in thoughts. And at this point, begin to gently ground. Maybe move the fingertips or toes gently if you have been still. I find placing my palms right onto the tops of my thighs brings me back to myself a little bit if my mind has been somewhere else in meditation or if I've been in deep thought. And there may still be more reflection to do throughout the rest of the evening or throughout the rest of your week as you think about what it means to embrace joy in your life, what it means to embrace joy while still having honest reactions to things and being able to own your true emotions, what it means to balance those things, what it means to be somebody who could be described as laughter loving in all of these different contexts. So this might continue, this might, private practice might include some sort of journaling, or just noticing little elements of this as they play out in your life. Now I give final thanks to the goddess. Put out my candle. Please stay. She's been hanging on to the flame lately. And I thank you all for sharing this time with me, either directly or on the time delay. And I hope everyone is heading into a wonderful holiday season, whether it is uncomplicated joy or whether it's moments of joy amidst stress, which it can be for many people. Have a lovely evening. And for those of you interested, on the 21st, my sister and I are doing a ritual for Persephone for Yule. And the next Aphrodite devotional is already scheduled for the first Friday of January, and that will be one of the big ones, Aphrodite Urania, and then it'll be kind of the first of almost, I see them as linked. Aphrodite Urania and Aphrodite Pandemos are going to be January and February of the new year, so they'll kind of be an interlocking set of rituals, because I see those as the two main dualities of Persephone. I'm going crazy. She's also very much a dual goddess, but I see that as the main duality of Aphrodite, the Urania side and the Pandemos side. So I'm excited to do kind of a two-parter almost. Anyhow, thank you all so much for being here, and I will hopefully see everyone again soon. Good night.